The charity gala glittered beneath crystal chandeliers, Seoul's elite draped in silk and secrets. Seo Ji-hwan stood at the edge of the crowd, whiskey untouched in his hand, his cold gaze scanning faces he'd bought and broken. Then he saw her, Zara Adeyemi. 3 years since she vanished. 3 years since she destroyed him. She wore emerald green, her natural hair swept elegantly upward, her hand resting unconsciously against her stomach. His eyes narrowed. Something was different, something she was hiding. His jaw tightened as recognition flickered in her dark eyes. She hadn't expected him here. Good. Neither had he expected the quiet fury rising in his chest, or the dangerous certainty that she was keeping something from him. Sometimes the person who breaks you returns, carrying the one secret that could either save you or destroy you completely. Please like, share, and subscribe. The Grand Hyatt Seoul Ballroom buzzed with practiced laughter and calculated conversations. Politicians mingled with tech moguls. Heiresses air-kissed rivals they'd ruin by morning. Seo Ji-hwan belonged to none of them. He owned them. At 32, he controlled the Seo Corporation publicly, shipping real estate, tech investments worth billions. Privately, his reach extended into shadows most people pretended didn't exist. The underground economy of Seoul bent to his name. Drug routes he'd never touch, but taxed heavily. Protection money flowing like rivers into offshore accounts. Politicians whose careers he'd built and could dismantle with a single phone call. Tonight wasn't about business. Tonight was personal. She's here. His lieutenant, Kwon Dae-young, appeared at his side. Northwest corner, near the silent auction. Ji-hwan didn't turn immediately. He finished his whiskey slowly, the burn familiar against his throat. How does she look? Dae-young hesitated. Different. Beautiful. But different. Different how? I can't explain it. You'll see. Ji-hwan set down his glass. The dragon tattoo, climbing his neck, disappeared beneath his collar, but its tail remained visible, black ink coiling toward his jaw, a reminder to everyone who looked closely enough. He was not a man who forgave. He turned. The crowd parted unconsciously as he moved, bodies shifting like water around a predator. He'd cultivated this effect deliberately. Fear was more reliable than respect. And then he saw her fully. Zara stood beside a marble pillar, champagne flute untouched in her hand. Her dark skin glowed beneath the chandeliers, her emerald gown hugging curves he remembered with painful clarity. Her natural hair was styled in an elaborate updo, gold accessories catching the light. She was laughing at something another woman said, her smile bright. But he knew that smile. It was her armor. Something tightened in his chest. Something he'd spent 3 years trying to kill. Her eyes found his across the room. The laughter died. Zara's blood turned to ice. No, not him. Not here. Not tonight. She'd checked. She'd verified. The Seo Corporation wasn't listed among the gala sponsors. She'd been so careful. But Seo Ji-hwan stood 40 feet away, watching her with those cold, beautiful eyes that had once looked at her like she was the only warmth in his frozen world. Now they held nothing but dangerous calculation. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach before she caught herself. Too late. She saw his gaze drop, saw the almost imperceptible narrowing of his eyes. Zara, her companion, a Korean socialite she'd met through her fashion consulting work, touched her arm. Are you all right? You've gone pale. I'm fine. The lie tasted like ash. Excuse me. She needed to leave. Now, before he, Ms. Adeyemi. His voice, that deep, controlled voice that had once whispered promises against her skin. She turned slowly, buying seconds to compose her face. He stood 3 feet away, close enough for her to smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, close enough to see the dragon tattoo curving up his neck, its scales detailed in black and red ink, close enough to remember everything. Mr. Seo. She kept her voice steady. I didn't realize you attended charity events. I don't. His eyes never left her face. Usually, the implication hung between them. He was here for her, but how had he known she'd be here? She'd only confirmed her attendance 2 days ago, a last-minute decision when her client, the realization hit like cold water. Her client tonight was Min So-young, heiress to a tech empire, a woman whose family had extensive business dealings with Seoul Corporation. Ji-hwan had known she'd be here. He'd planned this. Seoul, 3 years ago. Zara Adeyemi had arrived in Korea with nothing but her talent and her determination. Raised in Lagos by her grandmother after her parents' deaths, she'd built herself from poverty through sheer will. A scholarship to a London fashion school, an internship in Paris, and finally, a position at a prestigious Seoul styling firm that worked with Korea's elite. She was 23, hungry, brilliant, and completely unprepared for Seo Ji-hwan. They'd met at a corporate event. She'd been styling the wife of a tech executive, adjusting a necklace clasp, when she felt someone watching her. He stood alone by the windows, Seoul's skyline glittering behind him. Dark suit, perfect posture, eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. Later, she'd learn what he was, the legitimate businessman who smiled for cameras, the shadow king who terrified men twice his age. That night, she only knew that when his eyes met hers, something in her chest cracked open. You're staring at me, she'd said boldly, approaching him. Lagos girls didn't wait for men to approach. You're worth staring at. That's a lazy line. It's not a line. He'd tilted his head, studying her. You don't belong here. Excuse me. These people perform. Every smile calculated, every word chosen for advantage. He'd stepped closer. But you're real. It's unsettling. She should have walked away. She didn't. Their relationship had been impossible from the start. He was a 30-year-old criminal empire heir. She was a 23-year-old Nigerian immigrant building a legitimate career. Every rule, written and unwritten, said they shouldn't work. They worked anyway. Ji-hwan was cold in public, controlled, untouchable, terrifying. Alone with her, he became someone else. Someone who laughed at her commentary on Korean dramas. Someone who traced patterns on her skin while she slept. Someone who looked at her like she'd somehow bypassed every wall he'd ever built. Why me? She'd asked once, lying in his penthouse bedroom, Seoul glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows. He'd been silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Because you see me, he finally said. Not the name, not the fear. Me. She'd believed him. For 11 months, she'd believed everything. Until the night, everything shattered. Zara still remembered the exact moment her world collapsed. A warehouse. Industrial district. She'd received a text from Ji-hwan's phone asking her to meet him there urgently. Instead, she'd found bodies. 3 men, dead, blood pooling on concrete floors, and Ji-hwan standing over them. Dragon tattoo visible beneath his rolled sleeves, his hands crimson. He'd looked up when she screamed, his expression shifting from cold satisfaction to something like horror. Zara. She'd run. He'd caught her at the door, blood-stained hands gripping her arms. Listen to me. This isn't. You killed them. She'd fought his grip. You're a murderer. They were going to kill you. His voice was steady despite her struggles. They were sent to kidnap you, to use you against me. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Not in my world. His grip tightened. I told you what I am. You said it didn't matter. I didn't know it meant this. She'd seen something break in his eyes, something that had once been soft, dying beneath her words. Then go. He'd released her suddenly. Run. Like everyone else. She'd packed a single bag and fled Seoul that night, leaving behind her career, her apartment, everything she'd built. Leaving behind him. She'd told herself it was the right choice. He was a monster. She'd witnessed his violence firsthand. But somewhere over the Pacific, she'd started crying. And she hadn't stopped for 3 days. The charity gala felt suffocating now. Zara forced herself to breathe as Ji-hwan studied her with those unreadable eyes. "You came back to Seoul," he observed, "after vanishing so thoroughly. I had business here." "Yes. Min So-young's wedding styling." He smiled without warmth. "She's a client of my family's company. Convenient." "I wasn't aware of the connection." "Weren't you?" The accusation hung between them. "Why would I deliberately return to a city where—" She stopped herself. "Where what?" He stepped closer. "Where the monster who loved you might find you." Her heart stuttered. Loved. Past tense. "I need to go." She tried to step around him. He moved with her, blocking her path without touching her. "Not yet." His voice dropped lower. "Not until you explain something." "I don't owe you explanations." "Perhaps not." His eyes dropped to her stomach again, to the slight curve she'd tried to hide beneath the gown's flowing fabric. "But I think you owe someone an explanation." Ice flooded her veins. "I don't know what you're implying." "Don't you?" He reached out slowly, deliberately, and touched her chin with one finger, tilted her face up toward his. "You're pregnant, Zara." His voice was soft. "Dangerous. And I can count." The private room Ji-hwan secured was on the gala's second floor, soundproofed, away from curious eyes. Zara stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching rain begin to streak the glass. Behind her, Ji-hwan poured himself another whiskey. 17 weeks, he said quietly. "That's my estimate, based on the timing of your return to Seoul, based on the way you're carrying." "You're not a doctor." "No, but I'm very good at observation." Ice clinked in his glass. "And mathematics." She said nothing. 17 weeks would mean conception approximately 4 months ago, which would mean, he paused deliberately, that you were in Seoul, briefly, for the Kim Nakamura wedding that made fashion headlines. Her hands tightened on her arms. "You didn't know I was there," she whispered. "I didn't know until tonight. But I checked your movements over the past year the moment I saw you. My people are efficient." His footsteps approached slowly. "You were here for 3 days. You stayed at the Shilla Hotel. You attended the wedding. And one night—" "Stop. One night, you went to Itaewon, to a jazz club we used to visit together." She closed her eyes. "I was there that night, Zara." His voice was directly behind her now. "I saw you leave. I was going to approach you. Then you got into a car with someone else." Her eyes flew open. "What?" "A man. Korean. Well-dressed. You were laughing with him." She turned to face him. His expression was carved from stone, but something burned in his eyes. "He was my colleague, from the wedding planning team. He was giving me a ride back to my hotel." "Just a ride. Just a ride." She held his gaze. "Nothing happened with him." "Then the baby is yours." The words fell between them like stones into still water. Ji-hwan's glass stopped halfway to his lips. For the first time in the years she'd known him, she saw him completely shaken. "What?" "The baby is yours." She pressed her hand to her stomach. "That night at the jazz club, you weren't the only one watching. I saw you leave. I followed you outside. We argued in the rain. Don't you remember?" His jaw tightened. "I remember." "And what happened after the argument?" A long silence. She saw memory surface in his eyes. The rain, the anger, the desperate, hungry collision against a wall in a nearby alley. Her dress ruined, his control shattered. 3 years of separation burned away in minutes. Then she'd walked away again, and he'd let her. "You left," he said hoarsely, without a word. Again. Because nothing had changed. Tears burned her eyes. "You're still who you are. I'm still who I am. One night doesn't erase. It apparently creates. His gaze dropped to her stomach. You're carrying my child. And you weren't going to tell me. No. She lifted her chin. I wasn't. Later that night, Zara sat in her hotel room, unable to sleep. The rain continued outside. Seoul's lights blurred through water-streaked windows. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the subtle movements that had only recently started. Phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered anyway. You should leave, Seoul. A woman's voice. Korean accent. Cultured. Cold. Tonight. Before he destroys you. Who is this? Someone who knows what Seo Ji-hwan does to the people he claims to love. Ask him about Park Yuna. Then run. The call ended. Zara stared at her phone, heart pounding. Park Yuna. The name meant nothing to her. But the fear in the woman's voice had been real. Across Seoul, in his penthouse study, Ji-hwan stood before floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled beneath him. 20 million people, unaware that their ordered world rested on foundations he could shake with a phone call. He didn't want to shake anything tonight. He wanted to understand. She's 17 weeks pregnant. He spoke without turning. Confirmed. Kwon Dae-young stood behind him. Our medical contact reviewed her records. The dates align with your encounter in August. The man she left with that night? Kim Tae-sung. Colleague. Married. 3 children. No evidence of any relationship with Ms. Adeyemi beyond professional. Ji-hwan nodded slowly. His child. Zara was carrying his child. The concept felt foreign. Abstract. He'd never planned for children. His world was too violent. His legacy too blood-soaked. But now, she's planning to leave Seoul tomorrow evening. Dae-young continued. Flight to London. Then connecting to Lagos. Cancel it. Sir. The flight. Cancel it. Mechanical issues. Overbooking. I don't care how. He turned finally, and Dae-young saw something rarely present in his boss's cold eyes. Fear. She's not leaving Seoul with my child. Morning light filtered through Zara's hotel windows. She'd barely slept, the mysterious caller's words echoing in her mind. Park Yuna. A quick internet search had revealed little. Korean name. Too common. No obvious connection to Seo Ji-hwan. But Zara had resources the caller didn't know about. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. When powerful men circle you, find the women they've wounded. They always know the truth. She made 3 phone calls. The first, to her former Korean landlady, a gossip who knew everyone in Seoul's elite circles. The second, to a former colleague now working at a Seoul tabloid. The third, to a number she'd sworn never to use again. By noon, she had answers. Park Yuna, 28, daughter of a shipping magnate. She'd been engaged to Seo Ji-hwan 4 years ago, before Zara entered his life. The engagement had ended abruptly. Publicly, the families cited personal differences. Privately, Zara stared at the photographs her tabloid contact had sent. Yuna at a hospital, bandages visible, her face turned away from cameras. Yuna 6 months later at a press conference, announcing she was leaving Korea permanently for health reasons. Yuna's father, publicly ruined within a year of the broken engagement. His shipping company absorbed by Seo Corporation. Her phone rang. Ji-hwan. She let it ring. She's not answering. Ji-hwan stared at his phone, then threw it across the room. Dae-young wisely said nothing. The penthouse study felt smaller than usual, walls closing in. Ji-hwan's hands gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. Someone had gotten to her. Someone had told her about Yuna. Find out who, he ordered. Everyone who's contacted her since last night. Every call. Every text. Sir, her phone isn't. Then tap the hotel phones. Bribe her contacts. I don't care. He straightened, jaw tight. Someone is trying to turn her against me. I want to know who. 4 years ago, Park Yuna had been the perfect choice. Ji-hwan's mother had selected her personally. Proper family, proper breeding, proper understanding of what marrying into the Seo family would require. Yuna understood that Ji-hwan's business meetings sometimes ran until 3 a.m. She understood that certain questions were never asked. She understood that love was not part of the arrangement. What she didn't understand was that Ji-hwan would never touch her. "Is there someone else?" she'd asked one night, 3 months into their engagement. "No." "Then why won't you?" "Because I don't love you." He'd said it without cruelty, only truth. "I thought I could pretend. I can't." She'd accepted his honesty, but someone else hadn't. Yuna's father saw the marriage as his entry into Seo Corporation's inner circle. When whispers began that Ji-hwan planned to end the engagement, the old man made a choice. He hired men to encourage Ji-hwan's commitment. The attack came at night. Ji-hwan's car ambushed, his driver killed, Ji-hwan himself beaten, ribs cracked but alive. The attackers made one mistake. They mentioned Yuna's father by name. What followed was not revenge. It was erasure. Ji-hwan didn't touch Yuna. She was innocent in her father's schemes. He'd even ensured she had enough money to start over elsewhere. But her father, some men disappeared completely. Others merely wished they had. The bruises on Yuna in those photographs weren't from Ji-hwan. They were from her father. In the chaos of his empire's collapse, drunk and blaming his daughter for not keeping her fiancé. But the world didn't know that story. The world only saw a powerful man destroying his ex-fiancé's family. Zara's hotel room door opened to reveal Ji-hwan, flanked by hotel security apologizing profusely. "I tried to explain you weren't accepting visitors, ma'am, but Mr. Seo..." "Leave us." Ji-hwan's voice was ice. The security guards fled. Zara stood her ground, though her heart raced. "This is my private room. I own this hotel." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Technically, it's my private room." "That's not. You've been investigating me." His eyes scanned the room, landing on her open laptop, looking into Park Yuna. "Someone called me, warned me about you." "I know. I traced the call." He pulled out his phone, showing her a photograph. "Do you recognize this woman?" The caller's face appeared on screen. Elegant, cold, beautiful. "She called herself a concerned party," Zara said slowly. "Her name is Choi Min-ji. She's the daughter of a man I ruined last year for embezzlement. She's been trying to damage me ever since." He pocketed the phone. "Everything she told you about Yuna is incomplete. Then complete it." He was silent for a long moment. "Yuna's father tried to have me killed. I responded. Yuna herself was never harmed by me. Her injuries came from her father, in his rage after losing everything." His jaw tightened. "I am not a good man, Zara. I've never claimed to be. But I don't hurt women. I never have." She wanted to believe him. She was terrified of believing him. "You killed those men," she whispered. 3 years ago. I saw. I killed men who were sent to kidnap you, to torture you, to use your suffering to control me." He stepped closer. "I told you then. I'm telling you now. I don't regret it. I would do it again. That doesn't make it right." "No." His voice softened slightly. "But it made you safe." Zara's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting. "I need to take this." "Who is it?" "None of your business." She answered, turning away from Ji-hwan. "Daniel." "Yes, I'm fine." "No, the flight wasn't canceled." "Wait, what do you mean it was canceled?" Ji-hwan's face remained impassive. "There must be a mistake. I'll call the airline directly." She paused, listening. "No, don't fly here. I can handle Daniel. Daniel, listen to me." She hung up, spinning to face Ji-hwan with fury in her eyes. "You canceled my flight. Mechanical issues. And Daniel's trying to book a flight to Seoul now. Daniel. His voice was silk over steel. Who is Daniel? My partner. Something flickered in Ji-hwan's eyes. Something dangerous. Partner. Business partner. We run a consulting firm together. London-based. She stepped closer, angry. Not that it's any of your concern. Everything about you is my concern. His hand shot out, gripping her arm. Not hard, but immovable. You're carrying my child. And that gives you rights over my travel, my business, my relationships. It gives me the right to protect what's mine. I am not yours. She wrenched her arm free. I never was. We had an affair. It ended. The pregnancy doesn't change that, doesn't it? He reached out again, slower this time, his hand coming to rest against her stomach. She froze. This child is mine, he said quietly. My blood, my legacy. And you thought you could just take it? Raise it in another country, without my knowledge. I was going to tell you eventually. When they were grown, when they asked about their father, and you could spin whatever story suited you. His hand pressed slightly firmer. I grew up without a father. Zara. He was alive, but absent, running his empire while I raised myself. I won't do that to my child. You live in a world of violence. I live in a world I control, a world where my child would be protected by power most people can't imagine. His eyes bore into hers. You know what it's like to grow up with nothing, to fight for every opportunity. Would you really deny our child the safety I can provide? The safety? She laughed bitterly. Ji-hwan, your enemies tried to kidnap me just because I was your girlfriend. What do you think they'd do to your child? They wouldn't dare. His voice was absolute, because anyone who touched my child would face something worse than death. She shivered. This was who he was. Beautiful, devoted, absolutely terrifying, and the father of her baby. Despite Ji-hwan's interference, Daniel Chun landed in Seoul 2 days later. Zara met him in her hotel lobby, relief and frustration warring in her chest. Daniel was tall, British Chinese, impeccably dressed in casual linen. They'd been business partners for 2 years, friends for longer. He knew about her past with Ji-hwan, the edited version anyway. You look terrible, he said, hugging her. Thank you. That's helpful. I mean it. You look like you haven't slept since I last saw you. He pulled back, studying her face. What's he done? How do you know? Zara. His voice was gentle. Your flight was mysteriously cancelled. You asked me not to come. Something's clearly wrong. And you only get that particular expression when Seo Ji-hwan is involved. She closed her eyes. He knows. About the pregnancy? About everything. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Right. We need a plan. Daniel. No, listen. I know lawyers. Very good lawyers. International custody specialists. Whatever he's planning, we can counter it. You don't have to. Mr. Chun. They both turned. Ji-hwan stood 10 feet away, flanked by 2 men whose suits didn't quite hide their bulk. His expression was pleasant. His eyes were murder. I don't believe we've been introduced, he continued smoothly. I'm Seo Ji-hwan. Zara's. He paused deliberately. Future. The private room Ji-hwan led them to was clearly designed for intimidation. Massive desk, dark wood paneling, windows overlooking Seoul's financial district, like a king surveying his domain. Daniel remained admirably calm. Mr. Seo, I've heard a great deal about you. Have you? Ji-hwan sat behind the desk, gesturing for them to take chairs opposite. From Zara, I assume. From various sources. Then you know what I'm capable of. Ji-hwan's smile didn't reach his eyes, which makes me wonder why you'd involve yourself in this situation. Zara is my partner and my friend. Her situations are my situations. How loyal. The word dripped with contempt. Tell me, Mr. Chun, what are your intentions toward the mother of my child? My intentions are to support her in whatever she decides. And what has she decided? Daniel glanced at Zara. She straightened in her chair. I've decided that you don't get to make decisions for me. About my travel. About my business. About my body. Our child isn't just your body. Our child is currently inside my body. That gives me certain rights. Ji-hwan's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. Korean law. Won't matter if I give birth in Nigeria. She met his gaze steadily. My grandmother is there. My support system. My community. You might have power in Seoul, but your reach has limits. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Ji-hwan laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. You think my reach has limits? He leaned forward. Zara, I have business interests on 4 continents. Associates in every major city. If you run to Lagos, I will find you. If you run to London, I will find you. If you somehow make it to Antarctica, I will build a research station next door just to watch you. That's insane. That's devotion. His voice dropped. I let you leave once. I won't make that mistake again. That night, Zara couldn't sleep. She stood at her hotel window, watching Seoul's lights blur through rain. Her hand rested on her stomach, feeling the subtle movements that grew stronger each day. Her phone buzzed. Ji-hwan, I'm outside your door. She closed her eyes. This was a terrible idea. She opened the door anyway. He stood in the hallway, still dressed in his suit from their confrontation earlier. But something had changed. His posture was less aggressive. His eyes held something almost like vulnerability. Can we talk? He asked quietly. Just talk. No threats. No lawyers. She should say no. Fine. She stepped aside to let him in. They sat on opposite ends of the hotel room's couch, the city glittering beyond the windows. For a long moment, neither spoke. I never told you about my father, Ji-hwan finally said. Zara remained silent, waiting. He built the CO Corporation from nothing. Brilliant, ruthless, completely devoted to the empire he was creating. Ji-hwan's voice was distant. He had no time for a wife, less for a son. My mother raised me, but she was damaged. His coldness broke something in her. He stood, walking to the window. When I was 12, she tried to leave him. Took me, got as far as the airport, before his men intercepted us. His hand pressed against the glass. She never tried again, just faded, became a ghost in her own house. Ji-hwan. She died when I was 19. Officially, it was heart failure. His voice hardened. Unofficially, she just gave up. Stopped eating. Stopped caring. Stopped living. Zara felt tears prick her eyes. My father didn't attend her funeral. He was in Singapore. Business. Ji-hwan turned to face her. He died 2 years later. I didn't attend his. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand. He crossed the room slowly, kneeling before her. I know what kind of man my father was. I know I have his blood, his capacity for coldness, his obsession with control. His hands found hers. But I also have my mother's capacity for devotion, for feeling too much, for destroying myself over someone I love. His eyes met hers. You asked me once why the Nigerian girl with nothing, when I could have anyone. She remembered. Because you saw through me, he continued. Because when you laughed, I felt human. Because leaving you was the only thing that ever made me understand my mother's choice to stop living. Don't say that. It's true. His grip tightened. When you left, I considered following her example. Just ending it. The empire, the power, the money, none of it meant anything without you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then, why didn't you come after me? Because you were terrified. His voice cracked slightly. You looked at me like I was a monster. And maybe I am. But I couldn't bear making you look at me that way again. He lifted her hands to his lips, kissing her knuckles. Now you're back, with my child. And I'm asking you, begging you, don't run again." His eyes searched hers. "Let me try to be someone you don't have to fear." The next morning, Zara met Daniel for breakfast. He took one look at her face and sighed. "You let him in last night." "We talked." "Just talked." "Yes." She stirred her tea, not meeting his eyes. "He told me things. About his family, his past. Manipulative vulnerability. Classic technique." "Daniel." "I'm serious, Zara. Men like Seo Ji-hwan don't become powerful by accident. They're expert manipulators. They know exactly what story to tell to get what they want." "Maybe." She set down her spoon. "But what if it's not a story? What if he's genuinely—" "What?" "Changed. Reformed." Daniel leaned forward. "Has he promised to leave the criminal world? To stop threatening everyone who displeases him? To let you have an equal voice in raising your child?" She was silent. "I didn't think so." He sat back. "Look, I understand the appeal. He's powerful, beautiful, devoted. Every dark romance novel come to life. But real life isn't a novel, Zara. Real life has consequences." "I know." "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're already halfway to surrendering." His voice softened. "I've watched you build yourself from nothing. You're the strongest person I know. Don't let him undo all of that, because he gives good speeches about his traumatic childhood." Her phone buzzed. "Ji-hwan, lunch. My office. We should discuss terms." Terms. Like their child was a business negotiation. Daniel read the message over her shoulder. "And so it begins. Seo Corporation headquarters occupied a tower in Gangnam. All glass and steel and intimidation." Zara walked through the lobby, aware of every eye tracking her movement. The African woman visiting the chairman's private floor. The whispers followed her into the elevator. Ji-hwan's office was on the top floor. He stood when she entered, something flickering in his expression. Relief? Uncertainty? "You came. You asked." She remained by the door. "You mentioned terms." "I did." He gestured to a sitting area. "Please." She stayed standing. He nodded slowly, respecting her choice. "Fine. I'll be direct. I want you to stay in Seoul, at least until the baby is born. And after we discuss custody, visitation, financial support." He held her gaze. "I'm not trying to control you, Zara. I'm trying to be present for my child. Your presence comes with conditions. Everything comes with conditions. That's life." He moved closer. "My conditions are simple. Stay in Seoul. Let me provide housing, something secure. Let me attend doctor's appointments. Let me be involved. And what do I get?" "Whatever you want." The words came fast, almost desperate. "Name it. Money, career support, independence. I'll hire additional security so Daniel Chun can stop playing bodyguard. I'll keep my distance when you need space. I'll stop threatening people who help me." He hesitated. "I can protect what's mine without making threats." "Can you?" "Because Daniel is still scared you'll destroy his business." "I haven't touched his business. Yet." Another hesitation. "I won't touch his business. You have my word." "Your word." She laughed bitterly. "The word of a man who lies for a living." "I've never lied to you." She stared at him. He stared back. "Stay," he said quietly. "Please, give me a chance to prove I can be something other than the monster you saw that night." Zara called her grandmother that night. Adiz Adeyemi answered on the third ring. Her voice warm despite the late hour in Lagos. "My child, you sound troubled." "I am, Mama." Zara curled up on her hotel bed. "I don't know what to do." She explained everything. The pregnancy, Ji-hwan, the impossible choice before her. Her grandmother listened without interruption. Finally, she spoke. "When your mother loved your father, everyone told her she was foolish. A village girl with no education, pursuing a university man. But she saw something in him that others couldn't. Adi's voice softened. She was right. He was the love of her life. And they both died when I was 5. Yes, because life is cruel. But that doesn't mean love was wrong. A pause. You know this man better than anyone. Zara. Not the stories. Not the reputation. Him. What does your spirit tell you? Zara closed her eyes. She thought of Ji-hwan's hands, gentle on her stomach. She thought of his voice cracking when he spoke of his mother. She thought of the man who had killed to protect her, then let her walk away because she was afraid. I don't know, she whispered. Then perhaps you should find out. Her grandmother's wisdom carried across oceans. Stay. Not because he demands it, because you need answers. But protect yourself, child. Keep your exit clear. And if he becomes truly dangerous, yes, then you run, and you don't look back. 1 week later, Zara moved into a penthouse apartment Ji-hwan provided. It was excessive. 3 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, security that rivaled a government facility. But it was also separate from his residence, giving her independence. Small mercies. Their arrangement was formal. Twice weekly dinners. Shared doctor's appointments. No physical contact without consent. No major decisions about the baby without mutual agreement. It felt like a business contract. Because that's what she'd insisted it be. You're protecting yourself, Daniel observed during a video call. That's smart. It doesn't feel smart. It feels cold. Cold is safer than burning. She wasn't sure anymore. Dr. Park's office was discreet, located in a private wing of Samsung Medical Center that served Seoul's elite. Zara lay on the examination table, shirt pulled up over her growing stomach. Ji-hwan sat beside her, his expression unreadable. Everything looks excellent, Dr. Park announced, moving the ultrasound wand. Baby is measuring right on schedule. Would you like to know the sex? Zara's breath caught. She looked at Ji-hwan. He looked back. Together? He asked quietly. She nodded. Dr. Park smiled. It's a boy. Later, in the car, Ji-hwan was silent for a long time. Zara watched the Seoul streets pass, her mind spinning. A boy, a son, Ji-hwan's heir. He'll need protection. Ji-hwan finally said, I know. Not just from external threats. From... He stopped. From becoming what I am. She turned to look at him. His dragon tattoo was visible above his collar, the scales seeming to writhe in the passing streetlights. But his eyes held something she'd rarely seen. Fear. I don't know how to be a father, he admitted. My only example was a man who valued power over everything. Over love, over family, over basic human decency. His jaw tightened. I'm terrified I'll become him. Then don't. It's not that simple. Isn't it? She shifted to face him fully. You just choose. Every day. To be different. To be better. You make it sound easy. I didn't say easy. I said simple. Her voice softened. You chose to let me leave 3 years ago. You chose not to hunt me down, even though we both know you could have. That was different from your father. And now you're choosing to negotiate instead of demand. Choosing to ask instead of take. She reached out, almost touching his hand before stopping herself. Maybe you're already different. Maybe you just can't see it yet. His eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Something dangerous. Something that felt like the beginning of forgiveness. Dinner tomorrow? He asked quietly. She nodded. But others were watching. In a luxury apartment across Seoul, Choi Min-ji stared at surveillance photographs spread across her table. Zara Adeyemi entering Seo Ji-won's building, leaving his car, touching her stomach with protective tenderness. She's staying, Min-ji said flatly. He's winning. Her companion, a man whose face bore the marks of violence, nodded. What do you want to do? What I planned from the beginning. Min-ji's eyes were cold. Seo Ji-hwan took everything from my family. I'm going to take everything from him. She tapped one photograph. Zara, alone, walking through a park. Starting with her. Over the following weeks, something shifted. Zara and Ji-hwan's formal dinners became longer, conversations flowing more naturally. She found herself laughing at his dry observations about business rivals. He found himself listening to her stories about Lagos, about her grandmother, about dreams she'd almost forgotten. "You wanted to design wedding dresses," he recalled one evening, over Thai food in his penthouse. "When I was young, before practicality took over." "What stopped you?" "Money. Time. The realization that wedding dress designers need connections I didn't have." She shrugged. "Styling pays better anyway. And if money wasn't an issue..." She looked up. His expression was carefully neutral. "What are you suggesting?" "That I have connections. Substantial ones." He set down his chopsticks. "If you wanted to start a design house, wedding dresses, evening wear, whatever you wanted, I could make it happen. With your money. With resources, yes. But the talent would be yours. The vision. The work." He held her gaze. "I'm not trying to buy you, Zara. I'm trying to..." He paused, searching for words. "To give you back what you sacrificed when you left Seoul." She didn't know what to say, so she changed the subject. But later, alone in her apartment, she found herself sketching dress designs for the first time in years. It happened on a Wednesday. Zara was leaving her doctor's appointment. Ji-hwan called away to an emergency meeting. His security team surrounded her. 3 men, professional and silent. The parking garage was quiet. Too quiet. The first guard went down without a sound, a dart to the neck. The second drew his weapon, but collapsed before he could fire. The third managed to shout a warning before darkness took him. Zara turned to run. Hands grabbed her from behind. "Don't struggle," a voice hissed. "We're not going to hurt you. Yet." A cloth pressed against her face. The world dissolved into black. She woke in darkness. Cold concrete floor. Distant dripping water. The smell of mold and rust. Her hands were bound in front of her. Rope chafing her wrists. A blindfold covered her eyes. But she was otherwise unharmed. "She's awake." A man's voice. "Good." A woman's voice. Familiar. The caller from weeks ago. Footsteps approached. The blindfold was yanked off. Zara blinked against harsh fluorescent light, finding herself in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. 3 men stood nearby, and before her, Choi Min-ji, beautiful, cold, utterly without mercy. "Ms. Adeyemi." Min-ji smiled. "We need to talk about Seo Ji-hwan." "You're making a mistake," Zara said, keeping her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "Am I?" Min-ji circled her slowly. "Because from where I'm standing, I've just acquired the one thing Seo Ji-hwan cares about. His pregnant girlfriend, the mother of his heir. I'm not his girlfriend." "No." "Then why has he canceled every meeting this afternoon? Why are his men tearing Seoul apart looking for you?" Min-ji crouched before her, eyes gleaming. "He's coming for you, Ms. Adeyemi. And when he does, I'll be ready." Zara's blood ran cold. This wasn't about her. This was a trap. For Ji-hwan. Across Seoul, Seo Ji-hwan was destroying things. His desk, his chair, a priceless vase that had been in his family for generations. Kwon Dae-young watched from a safe distance. 3 guards, Ji-hwan snarled. 3 guards, and they took her like she was nothing. "We have leads. Security cameras caught a van." "I don't want leads." Ji-hwan turned, and Dae-young stepped back involuntarily at the expression on his face. "I want her back. Now." "We're tracking the van. It headed toward the industrial district. We've narrowed it down to 3 possible locations." "Then search all 3. "Sir, if this is a trap..." "Of course it's a trap." Ji-hwan's voice was ice. "Min-ji wants me to come. Wants me vulnerable. Wants me walking into whatever she's prepared." He straightened his jacket. adjusting the cuffs with deliberate precision. She's going to get exactly what she wants. Sir, prepare the team. Full response. We move in 1 hour. In the warehouse, Zara kept Minji talking. It was a survival tactic her grandmother had taught her. Keep them engaged. Make them see you as human. And learn everything you can. What did he do to your family? She asked. Minji's jaw tightened. My father worked for Seoul Corporation for 20 years. Chief Financial Officer. He helped build Ji-hwan's father's empire. Her voice turned bitter. Then Ji-hwan took over. Decided my father was compromised. Had been skimming funds. Was he? Does it matter? Minji's eyes flashed. Ji-hwan didn't offer him a chance to explain. Just had him arrested. Publicly humiliated. Everything we had, gone. My father died in prison 6 months later. Heart attack. From the stress. From the shame. Zara felt something complicated twist in her chest. I'm sorry for your loss. I don't want your sorry. Minji stood, pacing. I want Ji-hwan to feel what I felt. To watch everything he loves disappear. To know that all his power means nothing when someone is willing to go far enough. And you're willing? Minji stopped, looking at her with dead eyes. I have nothing left to lose. Ji-hwan's team hit the first location at midnight. Empty. They hit the second at 12:30 a.m. Also empty. The third location, Dae-young reported through his earpiece. Old shipping warehouse near the docks, owned by a shell company connected to Minji's former business partners. Thermal imaging, 5 heat signatures inside, 1 isolated from the others. Zara, move. Now. Minji's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then smiled. He's found us. She looked at Zara. Faster than I expected. He must really care about you. Zara said nothing. Don't worry. Minji pulled out a gun, checking the magazine with practiced ease. You won't be here for what comes next. She gestured to her men. Put her in the truck. The secondary location. If Ji-hwan survives tonight, I want leverage remaining. Hands grabbed Zara, hauling her upright. She struggled, but with bound hands and a pregnant belly, she was no match for them. This won't end how you think, she gasped as they dragged her toward a back exit. It never does. Minji's voice followed her into the darkness. But at least it ends. Ji-hwan's team breached the warehouse at 1:15 a.m. The first gunshot echoed through the cavernous space. Then everything went to hell. Minji had prepared booby traps, hidden shooters, escape routes. What should have been a swift extraction became a firefight. Ji-hwan moved through the chaos like smoke, his gun drawn, his men covering his advance. But when they reached the center of the warehouse, they found only a chair, empty, ropes discarded on the floor, and a note. You're too late. Again. Shall we continue this game? Ji-hwan's hand closed around the paper, crushing it. Where? He said, his voice deadly quiet. Dae-young was already on his phone, tracking her phone. They couldn't have blocked it completely. Find her. Sir. Find her. The truck had stopped. Zara didn't know where they were, but the air smelled different, salt and decay. Near the ocean, hands dragged her out, forcing her to walk through what felt like a shipyard. Metal structures loomed around her in the darkness. They stopped before a shipping container. Inside, someone ordered. The container door opened, revealing darkness. Zara's mind raced. If they put her in there, she might never come out. Minji looked up at him through tears of pain and rage. Just kill me. Finish it. He crouched beside her, studying her face. No. Why? She spat the word. Too merciful? Or do you want me to suffer more? Neither. He stood slowly. Because killing you would be quick. And you need to live with what you've done. With the failure. With the knowledge that everything you sacrificed, everything you destroyed yourself for, it meant nothing. He turned his back on her. Take her to the authorities. Make sure she survives to face trial. Sir, that's an order. Daeung nodded, gesturing for medics to approach. Ji-hwan walked away without looking back. He had somewhere more important to be. Zara was waiting in an ambulance when he returned, a paramedic checking her vitals. She looked up as he approached. Something passed between them, something that needed no words. Relief, fear, the fragile beginnings of trust. Is it over? She asked. It's over. He climbed into the ambulance, sitting beside her. She's alive. She'll face justice. You didn't kill her. No. Zara studied his face. Why? Because you asked me to come back. His voice was rough. You can't come back if you become something that deserves to stay in the darkness. The paramedic cleared his throat. Her vitals are stable. The baby's heartbeat is strong, but I'd recommend a full examination at the hospital. Arrange it, Ji-hwan ordered. The best OB/GYN in Seoul. Private room. Full security. Yes, sir. The ambulance began to move. Zara's hand found his in the harsh fluorescent light. He held on like she was the only anchor in a storm. Samsung Medical Center's private wing was quiet at 4 a.m. Zara lay in a bed that probably cost more than her first apartment, monitors tracking every heartbeat, hers and the baby's. Ji-hwan sat in a chair beside her, still dressed in his tactical gear, dried blood on his collar that she chose not to ask about. You should go home, she said softly. Change. Rest. I'm not leaving. Ji-hwan. I said I'm not leaving. His eyes met hers, and she saw something raw beneath the exhaustion. Every time I've left you alone, something terrible has happened. 3 years ago. Tonight, I'm done leaving. She didn't have the energy to argue. Maybe she didn't want to. Then at least sit somewhere more comfortable. He looked at the narrow bed, at the space beside her. May I? She shifted over in answer. He removed his jacket, kicked off his shoes, and carefully, so carefully, lay down beside her. The bed was barely big enough for them both. His body was warm against her side. This is inappropriate, she murmured, even as her eyes began to close. The nurses will talk. Let them. His hand found her stomach, spreading across the bump where their son grew. Sleep, he said quietly. I'll be here when you wake. For the first time in 3 years, she believed him. Sunlight streamed through the hospital windows. Zara woke to find Ji-hwan still beside her, though he'd clearly been awake for hours. His phone rested on his chest, displaying dozens of notifications he hadn't answered. Good morning, he said softly. Morning. She stretched carefully. How long have you been watching me sleep? A while. That's not creepy at all. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You snore. I do not. Gently, like a small, angry cat. She laughed despite herself. The sound felt foreign after the night's terror. A knock interrupted them. Dr. Park entered, professionally ignoring the compromising position. Ms. Adeyemi. Mr. Seo. She consulted her chart. Good news. All tests came back normal. The baby is healthy, and there's no sign of distress from last night's events. However, I'm recommending bed rest for the next week. Your body needs time to recover from the trauma. She'll have it, Ji-hwan said immediately. Zara shot him a look. I can speak for myself. Then speak. She hesitated. I'll consider bed rest. Dr. Park smiled knowingly. I'll have detailed instructions sent to wherever you're staying. Mr. Seo, a word outside. Ji-hwan kissed Zara's forehead, a gesture so automatic that neither of them processed it until he was already standing, and followed the doctor out. Zara touched her forehead where his lips had been. Something was changing between them. She wasn't sure whether to be terrified or relieved. In the hallway, Dr. Park's professional demeanor shifted. She's physically fine, she said quietly, but emotionally, she's been through significant trauma. The kidnapping, the confinement, the uncertainty. These things have effects that don't show on blood tests. What do you recommend? Counseling, gentle support, and... She hesitated. Stability. Whatever is happening between you two, she needs to know she's safe. Not just physically, emotionally. Ji-hwan absorbed her words. I don't know how to give her that. Then learn. Dr. Park's gaze was steady. You're clearly capable of moving mountains when you want something. Move this one. She walked away, leaving him alone with the weight of her words. 2 days later, Zara returned to her penthouse apartment, but something had changed. Ji-hwan's things had appeared. A toothbrush in the bathroom, suits in a previously empty closet, his particular brand of tea in the kitchen. I'm not moving in permanently, he said quickly, seeing her expression. But until we're certain all threats are eliminated, I'd prefer to be close. How close? Guest room close. He held up his hands. I'll stay out of your way. You won't even know I'm here. She looked at the toothbrush, the suits, the tea. I'll know you're here. Is that a problem? She should say yes, should insist on boundaries, should protect what remained of her independence. No, she heard herself say. It's not a problem. The days that followed were strange. Ji-hwan was true to his word, present but unobtrusive. He worked from a corner of the living room, taking calls in hushed tones, his laptop a constant companion. He made breakfast before she woke, ordered dinner before she thought to ask. It was like living with a very dangerous butler. You're hovering, she accused one evening. I'm existing in proximity. You've checked on me 4 times in the last hour. Only 3. He set down his phone. The 4th time was coincidental. She threw a pillow at him. He caught it, something like genuine amusement crossing his features. Your aim needs work. My aim is fine. You're just annoyingly fast. He walked toward her slowly, pillow still in hand. She watched him approach, her heart rate climbing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. If I'd wanted to hit you, she continued, her voice slightly breathless, I would have. Would you? He was close now. Too close. She could smell his cologne, see the individual scales of the dragon tattoo curving up his neck. Yes. Prove it. He handed her the pillow. She took it, and then deliberately set it aside. I don't want to hit you, she whispered. No. His hand rose, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. What do you want? The question hung between them, heavy with 3 years of separation, with shared trauma, with a life growing inside her that bound them together in ways neither had planned. I don't know any more, she admitted. Then let's find out. His hand cupped her face. She didn't pull away. The kiss was inevitable. Soft at first. Testing. 3 years of loss concentrated into a single point of contact. She felt his restraint, the control he always maintained, and something in her wanted to shatter it. Her hands found his chest, feeling the hard muscle beneath his shirt, the heat of his skin. He made a sound against her mouth, something between groan and growl. Zara. Her name was a warning. If you don't stop me now. Maybe I don't want to stop you. His control cracked. He lifted her easily, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her toward the bedroom. His mouth found her neck, her collarbone, the sensitive spot behind her ear that he somehow still remembered. Wait. She pulled back slightly. The baby. I know. His voice was rough. Dr. Park said it's safe, but only if you want. I want. The bedroom door closed behind them, and for a few hours, the world outside ceased to exist. Later, they lay tangled together in sheets that cost more than most cars. Zara traced the dragon tattoo on Ji-hwan's chest, following its path across his skin. The scales were darker near his heart, crimson fading to black as they climbed toward his neck. When did you get this? She asked. 18. His voice was drowsy, satisfied. The day I officially joined the family business. Did it hurt? Yes. His hand found hers, stilling her tracing. But pain has never stopped me from doing what needs to be done. She propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face. What happens now? Now. He opened his eyes, looking at her with an expression she'd rarely seen. Vulnerable. Open. Now I try to convince you that what we just did wasn't a mistake. Was it? For me? No. He sat up slowly, the sheet falling to his waist. For you? I honestly don't know. I'm still the man you ran from 3 years ago. Still dangerous. Still complicated. Still someone who killed to protect me. She touched his face. Still someone who let me go because I was afraid. Still someone who hasn't pushed for more than I was willing to give. Until tonight. Tonight I was willing. She smiled slightly. More than willing. He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. I want more than one night. I know. I want you to stay in Seoul. Permanently. Not as a hostage or an obligation. As... He stopped, searching for words. As something real. What does real look like to you? I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him. I've never had real. Only arrangements. Transactions. Power exchanges dressed up as relationships. His eyes met hers. But with you I want to try. If you'll let me. She was quiet for a long moment. Ask me again in a month, she finally said. When the trauma has faded. When we've had time to see if this, she gestured between them, is real or just adrenaline. A month. A month. He nodded slowly. I can wait a month. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Ji-hwan didn't push, didn't demand. He simply stayed, present and patient in ways she hadn't known he was capable of. He attended every doctor's appointment, taking notes like he was studying for an exam. He researched baby furniture with the intensity of a corporate acquisition. He learned to cook Nigerian dishes from YouTube videos, producing surprisingly edible jollof rice. My grandmother would be horrified, Zara said, tasting his third attempt. But impressed that you tried. High praise. The highest. They settled into patterns. Morning tea together, evening walks through the neighborhood, nights spent sometimes in the same bed, sometimes apart. No pressure, no expectations. Daniel video called weekly, his skepticism slowly giving way to cautious acceptance. He seems different, Daniel admitted during one call. Less terrifying. He's still terrifying. But differently terrifying? Zara laughed. Maybe. He made me breakfast today, without being asked. That is terrifying. Daniel paused. Zara, are you happy? She considered the question. I think I might be. But happiness, in Ji-hwan's world, never came without cost. The call came at 3 a.m., 3 weeks into their tentative peace. Ji-hwan answered, listened, and his expression turned to stone. When? He stood, already reaching for clothes. How many casualties? Zara sat up, watching him with growing dread. I'm coming. He ended the call, turning to her. I have to go. What happened? Business matter. The words were clipped, controlled. I'll be back as soon as possible. Ji-hwan, what happened? He paused at the door. Someone tried to fill the power vacuum Min-ji's arrest created. They hit one of my warehouses. 6 of my men are dead. Her blood ran cold. Are you in danger? I'm always in danger. He crossed back to her, kissing her hard. Stay here. Don't leave the apartment. I've doubled security. Ji-hwan. But he was already gone. Over the following days, Seoul's underworld erupted. Zara saw it in fragments. News reports of mysterious fires, of bodies found in the Han River, of increased police presence in certain districts. She saw it in Ji-hwan's face when he returned each night, exhausted and haunted, smelling of smoke and something darker. He didn't tell her details. She didn't ask. But she understood enough to know that the man she was falling for was fighting a war, and in war, the person who walked out each morning might not be the person who returned. "Talk to me," she said one night, finding him staring out the window at 2 a.m. "You don't want to know." "Maybe not, but I want to help." He turned to face her. The dragon tattoo seemed darker in the shadows, its eyes gleaming. "You help by being here, by being safe." He reached for her, pulling her close. "By reminding me there's something worth protecting." "That's not enough. It has to be." His voice was firm. "The world I operate in. You can't be part of it. I won't let you be part of it. I'm carrying your child. I'm already part of it. Our child will never see what I see, do what I do." His hands gripped her shoulders. "I'll die before I let that happen." "Don't talk about dying. It's a reality. My father died at 52, his father at 48. The CO men don't live long." His eyes searched hers. "That's why I need to know, if something happens to me." "Stop, Zara." "No." She pulled away. "You don't get to prepare me for your death. Not when I'm finally starting to believe you might actually be someone I can trust. I'm trying to be realistic. Be realistic after this war ends. After our son is born. After we've had time to figure out what we actually are to each other." Tears burned her eyes. "Give me that, at least." He was silent for a long moment. "I'll try." The war ended not with a bang, but with a meeting. Ji-hwan told her about it afterward. A gathering of Seoul's shadow powers, men whose names never appeared in newspapers, but whose influence shaped everything. An agreement had been reached, territories defined, consequences for future violations established. "It's over?" she asked. "For now." He looked older than his 32 years. "These things are never truly over, but we have peace. For a while." "How long is a while?" "Long enough to matter." He took her hands. "Long enough for our son to be born, to grow up safely, to have a childhood I never had." She saw the hope in his eyes, the desperate, fragile hope that maybe, somehow, he could break the cycle. "I want to believe that," she said quietly. "Then believe it." He pressed her hands to his chest, over his heart. "Believe me." On the 31st day, Ji-hwan found her on the balcony. The Seoul skyline glittered before them, lights stretching to the horizon. Her stomach was larger now, their son growing stronger by the day. "It's been a month," he said. "I noticed. I said I'd ask you again. About staying." She turned to face him. He looked different than he had a month ago. Still dangerous, still controlled, but there was something softer around the edges now, something that looked almost like peace. "I've been thinking," she said, "and I've been thinking about what staying means. Really means." She stepped closer to him. "It means watching you go to war, worrying you won't come back, knowing the father of my child has done things that would horrify most people." His jaw tightened. "It also means having someone who would burn the world to keep me safe, someone who learned to cook jollof rice, because my grandmother lives too far away to teach him herself, someone who holds me at night like I'm the most precious thing in his world." "You are." "I know." She smiled slightly. "That's terrifying, but maybe it's also enough." "Is that your answer?" She took a breath. "My answer is yes. I'll stay. In Seoul. With you." She held up a hand as his expression transformed. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "I want my own career. Not something you fund. Something I build myself. You can provide connections, but the work is mine." "Done." "I want our son raised knowing both his cultures, Korean and Nigerian. He speaks both languages, knows both histories." "Done." "And I want honesty. No more protecting me from uncomfortable truths. If something threatens us, I want to know." He hesitated. "Some things you can't unknow. I'll decide what I can handle." Her voice was firm. "We're partners now. Real partners. That means sharing everything. the good and the terrible. A long moment passed. Agreed, he finally said. But you need to understand, there will be things I can't speak aloud. Things that, if repeated, could endanger lives. Those I'll have to keep. Fair enough. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Is there anything else? One more thing. She took his hands, placing them on her stomach. I want you to promise me, on our son's life, that you'll try. Try to be better than your father. Try to build something that doesn't require violence to maintain. Try to give our family a future that doesn't end in blood. His hands spread across her belly, feeling the movement within. I promise, he said quietly. I don't know if I'll succeed. This world doesn't reward mercy. But for you, for him, I'll try. She rose on her toes and kissed him. The city glittered around them, indifferent to the vows being made. But in that moment on that balcony, something shifted. Not a happy ending. A beginning. The labor lasted 14 hours. Ji-hwan stayed the entire time, holding her hand as she cursed in 3 languages, threatened to kill him in 2 more, and finally, brought their son into the world. The baby's cry filled the delivery room. Zara collapsed against the pillows, exhausted beyond words, as the doctor placed a tiny, squalling bundle on her chest. He's perfect, the doctor announced. Absolutely perfect. Ji-hwan stood frozen beside the bed, his expression unreadable. Come here, Zara said, her voice rough. He approached slowly, looking at the baby like he was something impossible. He's so small. He'll grow. He has your nose. And your scowl. She smiled weakly. Look at that face. He's already judging everyone. Ji-hwan reached out, one finger touching the baby's tiny hand. The baby grabbed on. Something broke in Ji-hwan's face. Something that had been frozen for years, maybe decades, finally cracking open. I don't deserve this, he whispered. Maybe not. Zara reached up, touching his face. But you have it anyway. So what are you going to do with it? He looked at her, at their son, at the life they'd somehow built from the ashes of everything they'd destroyed. Better, he said quietly. I'm going to do better. We need to name him, Zara said. 2 days later, the hospital room had become their temporary home. Ji-hwan refusing to leave, Zara too exhausted to argue. The baby slept in a bassinet beside the bed, occasionally making small sounds that sent both parents into immediate panic. I've been thinking about that, Ji-hwan admitted. And in Korean tradition, the grandfather often chooses the name. But since my father is dead and we're not exactly following tradition, he reached into his jacket, pulling out a piece of paper. I made a list. She took it, scanning the names. Korean names, primarily. Some she recognized, others were new. What about combining traditions? She suggested. A Korean given name and a Nigerian middle name? I was hoping you'd say that. He hesitated. There's one Korean name I keep coming back to. Seo Junwoo. It means talented and glorious. My mother. He stopped, composing himself. My mother once mentioned she'd wanted to name me that. My father chose differently. Zara looked at the sleeping baby, at his tiny features that somehow combined both their heritages. Seo Junwoo. She tried the name, and for his Nigerian name, Chukwemeka. It means God has done great things. Seo Junwoo Chukwemeka. Ji-hwan smiled slowly. He'll need a lot of paper for official forms. He'll manage. Yes. He looked at their son with an expression of such tenderness that Zara's heart ached. I think he will. 3 weeks after the birth, Adiz Adeyemi arrived in Seoul. Zara's grandmother emerged from the airport like a queen surveying a new kingdom. Tall, elegant, wrapped in traditional Igbo attire that drew admiring glances from everyone she passed. Ji-hwan had sent his private jet. Unnecessary, Adiz said as she embraced her granddaughter, but appreciated. He wanted to make a good impression. Adi's eyes found Ji-hwan, standing at a respectful distance. "The father of my great-grandchild. I've heard many things about you." Ji-hwan bowed formally. "I hope to prove myself worthy of better things." "We'll see." But there was something almost like approval in her gaze. "Show me my grandson." Adiz spent a week in Seoul. She held her great-grandson constantly, singing Igbo lullabies that Zara remembered from her own childhood. She cooked Nigerian dishes in the penthouse kitchen, filling the space with smells of home. She observed everything: Ji-hwan's devotion, Zara's transformation, the careful dance of two people learning to be partners. On her last night, she found Ji-hwan alone on the balcony. "My granddaughter loves you," she said without preamble. "I know. Do you love her?" "More than I have words for." Adiz studied him. This dangerous, complicated man who had somehow captured her grandchild's heart. "In my village," she said slowly, "there's a saying. The snake that wants to live learns to sleep with one eye open. You are a snake, Mr. Seo. I see it clearly, but you are a snake who has found something worth protecting." "Yes, then protect it." Her voice hardened. "With everything you have, everything you are, and if you ever hurt her, if you ever hurt that child, I will find ways to reach you that your enemies have never dreamed of." Ji-hwan met her gaze steadily. "I would expect nothing less." She nodded slowly. "Good. Then we understand each other." She walked back inside, leaving him alone with the weight of her words. 6 months passed. Junwoo grew from a tiny, helpless infant into a curious baby who grabbed at everything within reach, especially his father's dragon tattoo, which seemed to fascinate him endlessly. "He's going to be a handful," Zara observed, watching Ji-hwan attempt to read business reports while their son chewed on his fingers. "He already is." But Ji-hwan's voice held nothing but warmth. "He has your stubbornness. My stubbornness." He threw his bottle at your CFO. The CFO was being boring. "He's a baby. He doesn't know what boring means." "He knows enough." Zara shook her head, but she was smiling. These moments, domestic, ordinary, impossibly precious, had become the foundation of her new life. She'd started her design business. Small at first, wedding consultations, custom dresses for select clients. But word was spreading. The African designer with connections to Seoul's most powerful family. The woman who understood both Eastern and Western aesthetics. She was building something real, and Ji-hwan, true to his word, was trying. He'd stepped back from the more violent aspects of his business, delegating to trusted lieutenants. He'd expanded legitimate operations, using his empire's resources to fund actual charity work rather than just reputation laundering. He came home for dinner most nights, played with his son before bedtime, held Zara while they watched terrible Korean dramas and mocked the dialogue. It wasn't perfect. There were still nights when he disappeared without explanation, returning with shadows in his eyes. Still moments when she saw the cold calculation beneath his careful warmth. Still the knowledge that the man she loved had done terrible things and might do them again. But there was also this: a family, a future, a love that had survived everything they'd thrown at it. Maybe that was enough. The proposal came on an ordinary Tuesday. No grand gestures, no orchestrated moments. Just Ji-hwan coming home from work, finding her feeding Junwoo in the living room. He sat down beside her, watching their son eat with the messy enthusiasm of a 7-month-old. "Marry me." She looked up, startled. "What?" "Marry me." He pulled a box from his pocket, simple, elegant, containing a ring that probably cost more than most houses. "I've been carrying this for 3 weeks, trying to find the perfect moment. But there are no perfect moments. There's only this. Us. Our life together." Ji-hwan. "I know it's complicated. I know the world will judge us. The Korean billionaire and the Nigerian designer. The crime lord and the woman who once ran from him." He took her hand, the one not holding the baby. But I don't care about the world. I care about you, about him, about the family we're building. Junwoo chose that moment to spit up on her shoulder. She laughed, the sound borderline hysterical. Perfect timing. Is that a yes? She looked at the ring, at the man offering it, at the baby who had brought them back together. Yes, she said. It's a yes. They married 3 months later, in a ceremony that merged both their worlds. The venue was Ji-hwan's private estate outside Seoul. Gardens transformed into something magical, with Nigerian drummers greeting guests alongside Korean traditional musicians. Zara wore a dress of her own design, white silk with subtle Igbo embroidery at the hem, a fusion that was purely hers. Ji-hwan wore a traditional Korean hanbok, the dragon tattoo visible at his collar, a choice that caused whispers among the older guests, but that Zara had specifically requested. I'm marrying all of you, she'd said, not just the acceptable parts. The guest list was deliberately small. Adiz, of course, who had become a permanent presence in their lives. Daniel, who had finally stopped expecting Ji-hwan to murder him. A handful of business associates from both sides. No politicians, no press, no spectacle, just family. Junwoo served as ring bearer, technically carried by his nurse, who carefully guided his tiny hand to present the rings at the appropriate moment. He mostly tried to eat them. When Ji-hwan slid the ring onto Zara's finger, something in his expression shifted. A wall falling, a final surrender. I never expected this, he said quietly, off script from any vows they'd prepared. I never expected to want something more than power, but you gave me something better, a reason to be better. Zara smiled through tears. Just don't forget it. Never. He kissed her, sealing the promise. Never. 2 years later, their family had grown. Junwoo, now a determined toddler, terrorized the household staff with his explorations. His sister, 6 months old and already showing her mother's stubborn streak, watched him with serious dark eyes. Zara's design business had become an empire of its own, a fashion house that bridged continents, employing designers from Lagos and Seoul alike. She was no longer just Ji-hwan's wife. She was a force in her own right. And Ji-hwan, he'd kept his promises. Not perfectly. There were still shadows in his world, still dark necessities that he shielded her from. But the balance had shifted. Legitimate business now outweighed the rest. Their children would inherit companies, not criminal empires. It was more than either of them had dared to hope for. On the anniversary of the night she'd been kidnapped, the night everything had truly changed, Ji-hwan found Zara on their estate's rooftop garden. Seoul spread before them, a galaxy of lights. You're thinking about it, he observed. Always on this night. She leaned against the railing, the container, the darkness, not knowing if I'd ever see you again. Zara. It's not a bad memory. Not anymore. She turned to face him. It's the night I finally understood what you would do for me. For us. The night I stopped running. He moved closer, wrapping his arms around her from behind. I would still burn the world for you. That hasn't changed. I know. She smiled. But now I know you'd also build one for me. That's the difference. They stood in silence, watching the city that had both destroyed and saved them. Any regrets? He asked quietly. She thought about it. The pain, the fear, the blood that had been spilled along the way. But also, Junwoo's laugh, her daughter's first smile, Ji-hwan's face when he looked at their children, wonder replacing his usual control. No, she said finally. No regrets. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Good. Below them, in the nursery, their son was probably causing chaos. Their daughter was probably judging everyone. Their life was messy, complicated, occasionally terrifying, but it was theirs. And that, Zara realized, was the only kind of happy ending that really mattered. Not perfect, just real. 10 years later, Seo Junwoo, age 10, presented his project to the family. It was a family tree, a school assignment that had taken weeks to complete. The branches spread across 3 poster boards, connecting Seoul and Lagos, business empires and village traditions. "Here's Daddy," he explained, pointing to Ji-hwan's photo. "He runs companies and has a dragon tattoo. Here's Mommy. She makes beautiful dresses and speaks 3 languages. Here's great-grandmother Adiz." "For languages," Zara interrupted, smiling. "I learned Mandarin last year." "Right. For languages," Junwoo continued seriously. "And here's my sister, who's annoying but okay sometimes." "Thanks," his 8-year-old sister said dryly. "And here's Baby Son." He pointed to the newest edition, a 1-year-old currently attempting to eat his own foot. "He doesn't do much yet, but Daddy says he'll learn." Ji-hwan looked at his children, at his wife, at the life they'd built from the ashes of everything he'd once been. The dragon tattoo still curved up his neck, a reminder of who he'd been. But now, when his children traced its scales, it was just another part of their father. Not a warning. "It's a beautiful tree," he said quietly. "It's accurate," Junwoo corrected. "That's more important." Zara laughed. "Definitely your son." "Definitely." Later, after the children were asleep, Ji-hwan found his wife in her design studio. Sketches covered every surface: wedding dresses, evening gowns, the traditional garments that had become her signature fusion style. "Happy?" he asked. She looked up from her work. "Exhausted, overwhelmed, slightly afraid our oldest is going to become a supervillain." She smiled. "So yes, happy." He crossed to her, pulling her from her chair into his arms. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For staying. For believing I could become someone worth loving." He rested his forehead against hers. "For giving me everything I never knew I wanted. You earned it." Her hands found his face. "Every day you earned it." Outside, Seoul glittered with possibility. Inside, their family slept, dreaming dreams that would have been impossible a decade ago. And Seo Ji-hwan, crime lord, billionaire, husband, father, finally understood what his mother had been trying to tell him all those years ago. Love wasn't weakness. Love was the only thing worth being strong for. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic dark romance narrations. Drop a comment below. Which moment gave you the most chills? And tell us, did Ji-hwan deserve his redemption, or was Zara too forgiving? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time.